Hello, good morning. I'm going to tell you a story that's on the paranormal side. It's two stories in one. It involves my son. The first one when he was 6 years old, the second one when he was 8. The first one I don't really talk about too much, but I think it needs to be said, and I think he needs to write a book. He's a very capable writer, and put it out there so that anybody who does research into any of this would have his story, which I think is important. I think it's important for parents. I think it's important for the Western culture to know that this exists. Um, I just think it's important. One of the things we completely ignore, for the most part, in the West is the spiritual side of things. We regulate it to church on Sundays, and a human being who, wants to collect money to keep things going. I know there are good churches out there, but they're not as many as you would hope. But there are things that they never tell us. There are things that they don't explain, and there are things that they don't even believe in themselves. And it leaves us vulnerable and our children vulnerable to bad things possibly happening because we walk around ignorant and believing, again, the television and what the experts tell us instead of what's really capital R reality, not lower R reality that we have lived in. Anyway, so I'm going to tell this, and you can take it or leave it. It is really not my story to tell, but I am the secondary person who went through this and witnessed this as his mother. And I need to say it just in case it never gets written down or it never gets told in a video. My son this is before his near-death experience at 8. He was 6 years old. He came to me scared. He said he was not able to sleep, that something was bothering him coming into his room at night, and he's looking to me for answers. A young man. And he's the oldest. He had a brother 4 years younger than him, a toddler. And I mean, there was no other children in the house. His father were now divorced, and everything at that period of time in our family was as normal as it could be before the disaster started. Okay, so I've thought about what could have invited this in to my house. I don't have the answers. Maybe somebody has the answers, or why this thing had access to my child. Okay, but it did. So this is kind of a public service announcement of the paranormal for the parents out there that you need to listen to your children, and you need to help them and do something about it if anything like this happens to them, and not ignore them. So let me tell this story. He came to me scared, and he explained that a man was coming into his room at night, and that I said, well, you're having a dream. He insisted he's awake. I said, did you see any scary movies? They only watched really like VCR tapes back then on their TV. It wasn't hooked up to cable or anything. But they can see stuff at somebody else's house, walking by the television. I don't know. I mean, so he said no. And he was so insistent that I could tell how sincere he was, how insistent he was. This is not something he had done before. After this, a fear of the dark developed, but he told me that this young man, and we just talked recently, so this is how this is coming up again, and he gave me a few more details that I don't remember him saying back then at all. Although, because when people tell me a story, I create a movie in my head, and I remember the movie, and the movie is based on the details they tell me at the time. So it's somewhat of a didactic memory in a sense, I guess. I do have a pretty good memory, or I did. I'm getting older. Uh, but, I wasn't there. I'm telling you what he told me and what he's told me recently. More details. This being was anywhere from 17 to 24 years old. Older, developed young man who was cool, charismatic. He said the closest thing he could come up with is like a young Leonardo DiCaprio, a young 4-year-old, well, he was 6 at the time, would think is cool, like a cool uncle or a very cool older brother. Anyway, somebody a young male child would want to hang out with and be a part of, okay? At first, he showed, he had him exit his body, like an outer body experience, in the house where he'd walk around and he'd see me sleeping, he'd see his brother sleeping, just basically in the house, and it was fun, okay? Then it came to where, I don't know if the talisman was involved on leaving the body inside the house. I'm not sure. I'll have to get more details from him if he even knows. But he said eventually it came to flying, and that was really fun. And the talisman looked like a mask, and the mask looked like he's drawn it for me, but it looked like the tragedy mask of comedy and tragedy, but even more sinister and clown-like, which, anyway, I'm not going to go off on that tangent. When he started flying, the talisman of the mask was in front of him at about 3 feet, and it didn't look like a mask, and he knew it was in front of him, but it was more like a rectangular, large TV screen you could see through, and you could see everything, like night vision, while you're flying. It didn't restrict your vision somehow. Maybe you're in a bubble. I don't know. That's not what he said. It was out in front of him by 3 feet, and it was like a big screen TV that you were looking through. And you could see everything. You could fly into people's houses and see him watching TV, which he did. He said his friend's house, like the parents watching TV. Or he remembers flying over the street lights like by 20 feet. He remembers it being fun, exciting. It was their secret. It was something he felt he could do that other people couldn't do. I mean, he felt powerful as a 6-year-old. Then it turned dark. I want you to understand, if you really think about this, is a grooming process, a trust process, okay? The child trusts you, you're fun, you're what they want to look like and be when they grow up. It's a grooming process, okay? Then it got dark. He took him down into the vortex of the floor where he came from. He described a hole in the floor and spinning circular, so I pictured a vortex. he went down into this, and he said it was like a cavern. When he told me years ago, I pictured like Utah with red walls on a bad stormy day. I don't, that go really high where you can barely see the sky. You're walking in between these walls. He said a cavern. He said he heard screaming like he had never heard before, and he hasn't heard since. And if he ever heard it again, he would recognize where it was, having been there. He saw people in cages, or not people, I can't say people, that's not what he said. He saw beings in cages, and they were distorted. I don't know if he meant just like they didn't look normal, okay, at all. And they were about 10 feet apart in cages, and he think, that's probably where the screaming comes from, right? But in between the cages, there was this black mist. It was black in between the cages, so they couldn't see each other. You could see them, but they couldn't see you. So in their world, they were alone. They were alone. So he figures this is some portion of hell. I don't know. He said he doesn't know, but it's got to be some portion of hell having something to do with hell. And that's what made him scared and to tell me. This creature, whatever this was, masquerading as a young man, kept reiterating to him, and my son said this to me many times, he kept saying it was a secret, and he kept telling me, it didn't matter. He didn't say anybody else, but he kept telling me, you cannot tell your mother. You cannot tell your mother. That was the agreement, to not tell me. Had nobody else, just me. He couldn't tell me. And I'm the one person he told. Thank you, Lord, on my Creator. When he finally came to me, he told me the story. I was, you push it off at first, but then I realized he's serious. He's really serious. And I just believed him. And I felt like, if this is real, I got to do something just in case. I mean, what if I didn't go to church? So I've had bad experiences with church. I had bad experiences after that with churches, okay? So, and they don't really help you with these kind of things for the most part. They'll just want to lock you up and call you crazy or lock your child up. So I did little research. I did buy some sage, but I based all of what I did on a Christian perspective. I walked around the house cleansing it, demanding it leave my home, reciting Christian prayers and the Our Father, creating a barrier around the perimeter of my property, asking the Creator to come in and intervene for my son and myself, and to protect him and make this go away. And it took me a little while to get this together. I would say a week, max, maybe 2 at most. But my son told me that a man came to him at night, a different man, an older man, a man that was had a white beard, white hair, white robe, whatever it is that, these things present themselves as good and bad, as what comforts you or what scares you or what, whatever they need to do to manipulate you. But in this case, this was a good one after I had done all that came to him while he was going to sleep and told him that it was gone, he was safe, and he was protected. it was over. And it was over. So I'm going to leave it at that. But when your children tell you something, you need to believe them. I don't know where we are in our timeline, but for some, it really unnerves me that this has access to children like that. I don't I don't know if it's because we are in the little season and the rules are different, or there are things that I was not told. I've even thought about a curse on the family line. I mean, you name it, I've thought of it. I don't know. But if I hadn't had some sort of faith and stepped in to handle this, I really cringe at what could have possibly have happened. I, you know, there are things out there we do not understand. There are things that do things to people that we don't understand. I'm just warning you. This is a warning. This is a public service paranormal announcement to protect yourselves and protect your children. It's very real. And 2 years later, he had a near-death experience and almost died. That's another story. But he needs to write these down. And I'm just telling you my perspective and to let you know it happened in case you need to hear this. I will talk to you later. Bye for now.